There is an ancient story of a student who went to the master and said, "I pray, I study, I meditate, do my daily rituals, and I even fast a little. I live in peace with others. Teacher, what more can I do?" The master rose, lifted his hands, and stretched his fingers out towards the heavens, when suddenly they became like 10 lamps of fire. And then he said, "You can become all flame." Welcome, I am Jareth Tempest, mystic, magician, psychonaut, astronaut, hierophant, all-around seeker of truth, author, full-time weirdo, and host of this show, where we talk about mysticism, the mystical journey, and all that's magical in the universe. Everything from spirits to spirituality, while I take you on a magical mystery tour through the inner worlds, and hopefully inspire you to take the next step so that you can become all flame. All right, well, thank you for being with us again this week. I really do appreciate your time. As we're getting closer into the holidays, I thought that it might be appropriate to talk about aliens, because that's what I think of when I think of Christmas time, and as is aliens. So, but seriously, it's a topic that came up. And, a lot of people have a lot of questions, and when I was doing these interviews with these spirits, I would ask my patrons for ideas for questions and stuff. And this was one that it didn't matter what spirit I was saying, okay, we're going to do an interview with so-and-so, and they'd be like, aliens. I was like, yeah, that's not really their wheelhouse. And then, finally they're like, it just kept coming up, and I was like, okay, we're going to talk to Metatron. I bet Metatron, it's not really, I don't think Metatron and aliens, but hey, he probably would know if anyone would. So yeah, we talked to Metatron about the aliens, and we got some really interesting answers. And there's some bits in here that I am not happy with the answer. Like, I'll explain it when we get there, but yeah, there's just some topics that I was like, oh no, I don't even want to think about that being true, if it is, or what that would mean. And of course it turns out it's true, and it's like, oh damn it, now I have to deal with it. But that's how this whole thing is gone. It's like we're not getting the answers that we necessarily expected, and we're certainly not always getting the answers that we want, which helps me to believe that we're not just dealing with, my wife's subconscious here. We're actually getting real answers from these spirits. And so just to remind everyone, this is our 10th episode, by the way. So yay, 10 episodes. The way where we're getting this information from is I'm putting my wife under hypnosis and then summoning the spirits, and then she's communicating with the spirits while in a trance. And then I ask all of these, various questions about the nature of the universe and reality and stuff. And so, yeah, there's always been the question, how much of this is real, how much of it's coming from her subconscious and stuff. And so that's why I say things like, oh, well, we're getting answers that we're not expecting. And that she definitely, we're getting a lot of answers, like I've studied a lot of this stuff and she hasn't. And it's not like I prep her ahead of time or anything. It's just, so it's always interesting what she ends up saying when she's in the trance. And the spirit does speak through her mind. It has to use her mind. So it uses the knowledge that she has, especially in vocabulary and what it has trouble putting brand new words in her head or something, but she, so it speaks with the vocabulary she has and the phrasing that she uses and things like that. So yeah, that's just kind of the way it works. Anyway, so the question that people kept wanting me to answer was, are aliens real? And so I finally asked Metatron, and Metatron responded by saying that yes, there are aliens out there. There's definitely life on other planets. So the next question, of course, comes from that is, well, have they visited Earth? I was careful because I'm aware of some different theories about aliens and stuff, and so I was carefully asked, have they ever physically visited Earth? And the answer was no. Metatron says that we have not been physically visited by extraterrestrials. However, they do visit us spiritually. And that, you might think of like astral projection or something. So they can project themselves here in the spirit, in a spiritual sense. And so we absolutely have been visited by aliens, and in spiritual sense. And it actually is a little bit more intense even than that, because I asked, what about the Fae? Are the, because there's a lot of UFO and paranormal investigators and types are beginning to link what we thought as alien activity with fairy activity. And so I was like, okay, so are the Fae extraterrestrial in origin? And he said, yes, the Fae came here from someplace else. And he didn't get specific and say where, and I didn't think to ask at the time. So I'm not sure exactly where they came from. And they may have come from many different places. It's hard to say. There are different families within the Fae. The Jinn are a type of Fae. There tends to be a lunar connection to a lot of Jinn. So, maybe it's something that's close to the moon, or maybe it was just, maybe they hit the moon first and then they came here. I mean, I don't know. I'm not claiming to have all of the answers here. But it's still interesting to think that, the Fae, they're not from here. And this is why the people, if you've ever worked with Fae, they're very different from us. There tends to be kind of two types of Fae. The ones like the older Fae, and then there's almost like a newer generation of Fae. And it's like the newer ones are a little bit more okay with Earth and with humans and stuff, whereas the older ones are a little bit more, alien, and can take us or leave us depending, there's different families, you could almost say, and different types went to different parts of the world. Different parts of the world, they behave differently from in others. I mean, you could spend your life, just doing, Fae magic. And I know that there's some people that aren't going to like the stuff that I'm saying here, but this is just the information that we've got in it. And it kind of checks out with a lot of the things that I've, heard. So anyway, another question that I had was, well, how is the government aware of this? Are they working with them? Because, that's a lot of the conspiracies and stuff, is that we think that the government might be involved with or working with the aliens. And Metatron says no, at least not intentionally and not knowingly. I think that, obviously I have no idea what's really going on in the CIA and NSA and stuff, but the stuff that has come out, about the psychic spy programs and the things that they worked on those things, it seems like they were looking for scientific explanations for psychic and magical phenomenon. They didn't seem to be wanting to work in the spirit model, so to say, or the energy model. They were very much in the trying to explain it by using science and quantum physics or psychology and those areas. And so I think that they might have overlooked a fairy connection. That's not, and maybe there might be individuals in there, but as far as the organizations go, I don't think that they have ever really worked with that. And if you've ever worked with the Fae, it seems unlikely that they would want to work with an organization in any kind of way that would help that organization. They might, work with them a little bit to have fun with them and kind of throw them off the track. But there's always a real sense of playfulness, mischief, and a trickster element. And it's not necessarily in a fun, lighthearted way. They can be very dangerous. There's any number of different scenarios where they might be trying just having fun with different government workers or agencies or whatnot. But anyway, Metatron did say that there's no real cooperation or knowledge of that type of thing within the government. And again, in probably in whatever ways that they might think that they are working with something, it's probably giving them a runaround. And you can almost see that with the way that, a lot of these like UFO videos and stuff that the Navy has released recently, it's showing up on their equipment and stuff as an object, but that doesn't mean that it's like, imagine like, we do know that spirits can fully manifest, and Fae they tend to have a little bit, they're really close to our physical reality, closer than angels or demons are, and so moving things and doing things in the physical world is a lot easier for them. And so maybe taking a form that can be read and seen visually and read on sensors and things is easier for them. And they very well just become a disc or a ball of light or something like that, just to and go buzz the military bases just for the fun of it. You never know, just to keep everyone on their toes. I think that the conspiratorial ideas that the government and the aliens are working together, or that the government's being controlled by the aliens or anything, I don't think that there's a whole lot of truth there. I think that that's more of a conjecture. So now we really didn't talk a whole lot about this, but I did want to get into a little bit of more of the kind of the metaphysical of it. And it's like, so I asked if there are these other worlds with life and stuff, whenever we reincarnate, is it possible for us to reincarnate on these other planets instead of coming back to Earth? And Metatron said, yes, that is something that we can do. And so if you're really tired of this planet, but you're not ready to, move on maybe to whatever's next, maybe, but you want to still do something physical, maybe just, see if to another world or something, see what the Pleiades is like. So there's that, and then there's the flip side of that is, well, can the aliens then reincarnate here? And again, the answer is yes. So there you have your Starseeds, and there you have your Starseeds and the people that claim that they are, from another world, and that they were born here, and they feel out of place and stuff. I didn't specifically ask about indigo children. I didn't think of that one, but I did. But Starseeds are real, and that's the thing that I was like, oh, really? I don't want to deal with this. And it's really not so much because I have a problem with someone being, knowing that they're reincarnated from another world, and I can absolutely see how it can be helpful to know who you are, where you come from, and that'll help you understand, who you are. And because I'm all about understanding yourself and knowing yourself and asking those kinds of questions about yourself. But a lot of people who make the claims that they are reincarnated from another world, they tend to do it in a way just so that they can sound special. And I don't think anything in your past life history should make you feel like you're special or better than anyone else. To me, it doesn't matter if you were Cleopatra in a past life. It's like, you're not now. You're whoever you are. And so it's the same with, knowing that you were, an alien in your past life. It's just like, that doesn't make you special in that you're better than other people or anything like that. You use that information on a personal level to help you understand who you are, why you do what you do, and what motivates you to do those things, and that kind of thing, that kind of self-knowledge and understanding of yourself. That's where that information is useful, not to hold it over other people and think that you're better than them. So that's why I have a problem with the concept of starseeds, is mainly because of the way it's been misused by people. I don't know, we're moving pretty quick through some some interesting stuff, but I didn't get a lot of detailed information. It was just more like, is this true? Is this not true? Is this, oh, okay, that's interesting. And Metatron was very clear, like, this isn't really my wheelhouse. This isn't, but I do know I can answer the questions though. And so, and it was in communication with Metatron was more difficult than with pretty much any other spirit. It was a lot for her to have in her head. It actually caused her quite a bit of pain when we were trying to talk about the Trinity, which is already a painful topic to talk about. And then, yeah, that didn't work. It completely failed. We had to go talk to Michael about that to get better answers. Michael and Lilith, actually. But anyway, the point being just that, yeah, I don't have a lot of detail on this, but it's good to know, and it's good to have these questions answered. These are some of the bigger questions that people have about our universe and life here is, are we alone? And the answer is no. There is life out there. It's just really far away and hasn't physically gotten here because it's just easier to travel spiritually or mentally or however you want to, phrase that term. But yeah, they're coming here in a projection rather than in a spaceship. And so the other thing that we talked about was, because we were talking to Metatron, and one of the stories about Metatron, and there's different versions of Metatron's origin, and the one from that a lot of people seem to know is the one from, I think it's the book of or Third Enoch, which is a Merkaba text. And the Merkaba text means chariot. And you would basically, you would get on the chariot of God and go and see the different levels of heaven and then try to reach the throne of God. Anyway, but one of these texts is the third book of Enoch, which it tells the story of basically of Enoch, the patriarch Enoch, doing just that. And when he gets to the throne of God, he is transformed into Metatron. And so I had asked Metatron, I was like, okay, so is this true? Were you Enoch? And he says, no, but his holy guardian angel was me. And so in a spiritual sense, whenever he had the divine marriage of his higher self and the archangel Metatron, then in a sense, yes, in a way he did become Metatron, but not in the way that necessarily the book talks about. And Metatron pre-existed Enoch. And he said this is a fairly common thing. There are a lot of people whose holy guardian angel is sort of a clone of a archangel or an angel or a famous angel or something like that. So if you ever are working with your holy guardian angel and it says that it has this name that's with a famous angel, don't discredit that as thinking, oh well, there's no way that my holy guardian angel is actually the archangel Metatron. It's like, no, that does happen. And so as we're talking about the book of Enoch, or that was the third Enoch, but that got me thinking about first Enoch, which is the famous one where the Watchers teach humanity about science and magic and astrology and weapons and war and makeup and all that stuff. And then they have sex with human women, and then they have the children of the Nephilim. And then the Nephilim, when they were killed in the flood, their spirits became the evil spirits. And so Metatron, were the Nephilim real? Was that a real occurrence? And he said yes, but not in the sense that the angels became physical and then actually had sex with women and then the children were born, but that angels will get involved in the reproductive process, and they will mix their some of their angelic essence into the mother as with the mother and father, and create a sort of at least a spiritual hybrid. It's not going to read different on a physical level, but at least it's on a spiritual level. And he kind of said it's sort of like In working with trees, you can graft a branch of a different kind of tree onto something, and it helps it with different things. That was the kind of example that he used. Is like it's like grafting a bit of an angel onto a human spirit. The interesting thing wasn't just that angels did this in the past, it's that spirits can do this to people still, including the Fae and including the aliens who are projecting here on Earth, as well as the angels and what we call demons and everything else that's here. They can do this, and it has happened, and it seems to happen more commonly than people would expect. And some people actually have multiple of these. It was, again, it's one of those things that, because I was like, well, what does this do? Does it make you, special? And it's like, well, it can give you, he's like, it doesn't give you superpowers or anything like that, but it can definitely increase your psychic ability or your magic ability, give you affinity to a certain type of spirit, or it can help you in different ways, or even hinder you in others. And it's just one of those things that you need to find out about yourself to help you understand who you are and why you are the way you are and why you do what you do, and help you understand your gifts and talents and such. And I had asked about Jesus. I don't think this was with Metatron. I think this was with Michael. But Michael came after this, and so we had this information, and I had asked, because Jesus keeps coming up in these conversations, so it's like, okay, well, just kind of keep going and find out more. Yeah, Mary and Joseph, or whoever the father really was, were two humans. They had physical intercourse. But that there was that spiritual joining as well. A divine entity was also involved in that birth, or in that conception. And then he also specifically said that the father had that as well, and so there was already you might think of it as like a divine angelic hybrid father, and then Mary had been had asked to be a part of this. She was a really highly evolved spirit, and not spirit, but I mean is like, she'd been through several lifetimes and was highly evolved, kind of an enlightened being, and was like, I would like to participate in this, and it was all worked out ahead of time, and to create somebody who, and to bring somebody who was highly elevated into the world, whose higher self could be, reach the level where, divinity could speak through them. And then, but Raziel wanted to, keeps pointing out that this is not a one-time occurrence. This is happening regularly, that there are anywhere but around 10 of these people on the planet at any given time. Again, this happens more often than what we think of. And like, so when I keep bringing up Jesus as just because it's an example that we know, not necessarily because I'm saying we should become Christians. I'm just using that as an example that these people that are really, exceptional and close to these spiritual truths and stuff are out there. And then, of course, there's all these, and there's people at that level, and then there's people that are close but not quite there, and people that are still working on it, but then they do still have all of these, fae or angelic grafts and stuff. And so, yeah, the world is just much weirder than I would have ever expected. None of this stuff was like, I wasn't expecting any of these things to be yes. I was really honestly expecting to say like, no, there's no aliens. No, there's no Nephilim. No, there's no, like just, but no, it's all, there's a truth to all of it. So yeah, the world is indeed a magical place. But so I went on and I asked about were the Nephilim evil? Like, were their spirits after they died, were they like truly evil dead? And he said, yeah, that was kind of bad. There was a bit of a learning curve whenever humanity began to become civilized. I guess some of the things that might have been more useful when we were hunter-gatherers with and nomads, that when added to somebody who maybe stays put and tries to live in a more regimented society, it didn't work out very well for them, and they've had to make adjustments since then. So, this was something that I saw one time in a vision with my holy guardian angel, and she showed me, a purgatory in a sense of dead souls who were kind of wrapped up within themselves. And then from there, I saw that, the ones that just don't get better kind of keep getting worse and worse. But until it almost becomes like all of these dead become a collective entity. But there's a handful that maintain their personality and kind of direct this hostile collective of dead souls. And it makes me wonder if those that stand out, it might not be the Nephilim. So there are true spiritual threats out there that you always need to protect yourself against. I work with Azrael on a daily basis to protect myself from the dead. Mainly from, because I do a lot of necromancy, so it's good for me to do that. I'm not saying that everyone needs to do it, but if you, it is just something that you should, at least be aware of. Just like everything else here that I'm talking about, I'm not trying to scare you, just that the world is a weird place, man. There's just all kinds of strange things that are true that we just, sometimes we weren't ready for it, or especially if we're just learning about magic and we're not fully read up on everything yet. And even if you are, even if you read, it's like, well, what is real and what isn't? And that's why we're doing these interviews, is because we want to know, what is real, what isn't, what do we need to worry about, what do we need to focus on. So yeah, this has just been some of the weirder things that we have kind of run into. And so yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on out there, and a lot of people do have these graphs or strange births, or they're reincarnated from something different. And just as an example, I'm gonna my wife is a pretty exceptional person, and I'm not just saying that because I'm her husband. And she has these memories of being on another world, and like a dying world. Whenever she died there, then that began her reincarnation process here on Earth. And so in a way she's a Starseed, but not in the sense of like her last life was an alien life. This was like way, way many lifetimes ago. But it's kind of where she started from. And so that, is always interesting. And then there's the, and we asked, we had Metatron there. So we were like, okay, so what about us? What do we have any of this? And, and he said, yeah, my wife has a bit of an alien and a fae source. And, and that kind of, it really helped her to understand that, there's just a lot of weird forces at work within herself. And, she's incredibly intelligent and funny, and giving, and just has this giant heart, but she has trouble with a lot of normal life stuff that we have to deal with. She's ADD and stuff like that, and so it kind of helps explain some of the chaos. It's like, oh, well, you're part Fae, obviously you're gonna have some chaos going on in your head. And for those curious, yes, there was just for me, there's some angel mixed up in there somewhere. I don't try to make it's not to me, it's not a big deal, but it's just it helps explain why, at least magically, I feel more comfortable and I have better results with angels and archangels, and not as and those entities on a kind of maybe in the higher frequency, as opposed to demonic and fae and stuff. Although I do tend to work pretty well with dead as well. Anybody can work pretty well with the dead. They're kind of close to us, but anyway. But again, I'm not saying like the big point of this is not to think that it makes you special. It just is to help you understand things like that, to know that, okay, yeah, I that's why I work better with angels than with, demons or jinn or something of that nature. And God, I already know that my haters are going to come out of the woodwork for this one. This is one reason I didn't want to say it, because I've already been accused of being like a high priest for the vampiric archons or something. I tend to attract the anger of some less than stable people. I think is the kind way to put it. And I'm sure that me saying this, I don't like to give a lot of personal information because it gets used like that. And in fact, like, I did share some personal information with somebody who ended up kind of joining that side against me. And I'm probably going to have to tell you guys more of my own personal story soon, just so that I can control the narrative and my own story and not have it be released by somebody else. So, yeah, I'll probably have to do that next week. And that's probably what we'll talk about. And this will actually help you understand why I don't try to look at the past or where we come from or what we've been through in the past to try to make myself sound, or I don't think that we should use those type of things to make us feel better about ourselves or elevate us in some way. I think that it's a very good learning tool and to help us understand ourselves and where we've been and who we've been, but not trying to say I'm better than you because I've done this or I've been here and done that. Yeah, I'll explain more about that next week. But yeah, with the holidays coming and I'm traveling again, I'm probably going to record a few episodes and kind of then release them, so they're not going to be as current. I guess if anything happens, I probably won't be responding to it, just to questions and stuff that I'm getting in the groups. It's kind of what I mean. But anyway, that's going to be what's we'll talk about in the next couple of weeks, along with some other things. Probably through the end of the year, and then next year we'll see what happens and what direction things go. We've still got a few topics that I haven't really covered very well from the interviews, and we're also still doing them. We don't do them as often. We've been so busy, but there's still, I want to say 3 that I haven't even released yet. So yeah, we've still got some ground to cover with this. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and end this now. If you like this video or this, and like, subscribe, or do whatever it is you do where you find this, and I will see you again next week. Bye bye.